Well, good morning. I have a concept for a topic today that is one that the most sophisticated hobbyists and professionals among us struggle with, but one which every little child who walks into a fish store and looks at the beautiful fish and wants to pick out some guppies also struggles with. So what I want to do today is I want to talk to that little girl or boy who's buying some guppies because they want to raise guppies and want to have really pretty ones. And my goal here is not to teach you how to do it, but to give you some sense of what's involved in being able to get different colors and different fins and different sizes, different characteristics with your guppies. Now basically there are three approaches to breeding guppies. One is called line breeding, L-I-N-E, breeding in a line. That means you breed the mother to the father, the son to the daughter, the grandson to the granddaughter, and so forth and so on. So that every fish that you breed is related to every other fish you breed it with, and as closely as possible. That's line breeding. That's done for the purpose of trying to hold on to and keep certain characteristics that you admire. Fish like the German half-black reds, one of my favorites that I've had since I was a child, is the fish that is routinely line bred. Now there's another element in line breeding called inbreeding. Inbreeding is where you breed the father to the daughter. Among fish, incest is not a crime, and in point of fact, it retains certain characteristics of the dominant male that are desirable characteristics. So there's line breeding and there's inbreeding. And then there's the third one, and that's the one everybody does. Selective breeding. Selective breeding is picking out fish that have characteristics that you really like and breeding them to each other. Now in the case of guppies, you can't always tell what the male gene is that the female guppy is carrying. So it takes a generation or so to figure that out. And if, as is likely the case, these are fish that have been bred and crossbred with no particular characteristics in mind, the only way to really find out what you've got is to breed 2 or 3 generations. In other words, you breed a fish to the female in which the male has certain characteristics that you prefer, and then you look at the offspring and you make some choices about that. What you like and what you don't like. And what you don't like, you don't want to breed. What you do like, you want to breed. So how do you pick a female? Well, you just pick one. Pick the healthiest, strongest, and the one that seems to have the nicest color and shape and body size and other characteristics that you like, and breed the nicest brother to her, and then look at that next generation. So you're now about a year down the line, and at 1 year you're beginning to see some things that maybe you like, and maybe you would like to try to reinforce in subsequent generations. Is that confusing enough for you? Well, to be sure, it is profoundly confusing. The advent of computers has given us the opportunity to be able to pierce a lot of this confusion and look at the genetic structure of animals and plants and determine those characteristics that we would like to be able to perpetuate. That technology is not typically available to the guppy enthusiast. What is available is, at best, time and opportunity, and a source for really pretty guppies. Curiously, the third of these is the most difficult to achieve. Now, there's a conference coming up in Miami this June of the American Live Bearers Association that will be joined by the American Betta Association. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of guppy enthusiasts there with some of their stock. So there's an opportunity to pick up some real quality stock. But if you will hassle your local fish store and bug them to get really nice guppies, they will. They'll figure out a way to do it. It's not always easy, and it's not always possible on a week-to-week basis to get really nice guppies, but they're out there. You can, of course, go online to Aquabid or Get Gills and find something that you like and order them by mail. That works, and that's effective. What you do with those then is up to you. It's up to what you're interested in and what you're trying to achieve. For most hobbyists, achieving variety is really more interesting and more exciting than trying to get a pure strain of guppies that throw 100% sons that look like fathers. Although that's wonderful when it happens. I've only ever had 2 such strains. The one strain were the German half-black reds, one of the most popular strains of guppies over the years. 50 years ago, more than that, 60 years ago, I was breeding those guppies and selling them to local fish stores. There have been dedicated hobbyists and dedicated guppy breeders who have sustained that breed, that strain, and kept it going year after year after year for 60 and more years. That's uncommon. There are other breeds of live bears, like swordfish, that no longer exist. Some breeder developed a strain that was absolutely wonderful, spectacular, beautiful, remarkable, unusual, It had its day, nobody kept it, it disappeared. And would require the same level of work, the years of breeding and crossbreeding in order to get that strain back. So sometimes we try, but more often I think we're looking for the oddball, for the remarkable, for the unique, for what's called the morph, M-O-R-P-H. Stems from the word morphology, meaning the characteristics of an animal. A morph is an animal that has something about it that's unique. Something that genetics has thrown out into the fish tank and put in the life of a fish that was not apparent in the parents or in the grandparents. Something new, something interesting. So you take that morph, that oddball fish, and you grow it back, grow it up, and breed it back to a sister or to a mother or father, whatever. And you try to find some more of those morphs in subsequent generations that you can cross to each other. That's a kind of line breeding too. Once that's achieved, and you find a son and a daughter, and are able to breed them, and able to get a lot of those morphs and breed them, then you're line breeding for characteristics. And there are a lot of fish that have been bred just that way. The flower horn certainly is one of them. And goldfish are another. Goldfish are probably the most exciting and interesting and remarkable of all of the genetically bred fish. And their morphology, their breeding goes back probably thousands of years, certainly 1,000 to 1,500 years. For a long, long time, people have been breeding fancy goldfish. One of our own, Precious Tranquility, if you look at her website, she has some of the most magnificent fancy goldfish I have ever seen in my life. They are utterly remarkable, stunningly beautiful. And she believes strongly in variety, in looking for and looking at the immense variety of characteristics that can occur among goldfish. That's the joy of it. I think that's the fun of it. I think that's what's interesting and exciting about breeding any kind of tropical fish, whether it be guppy or betta or goldfish or flower horn or angels like the ones in back of me. These are produced by a couple of local breeders who work constantly to develop new strains and exciting new varieties of angelfish. So a lot of these fish are highly experimental. They're not trash fish. They're fish that are the product of a creative exercise, of imaginative selection, and of an attempt to achieve something remarkable and beautiful. So I hope I've helped the 9-year-olds and the 49-year-olds as well. And just taking it easy with the breeding, having a sense of celebration about it, and enjoying your offspring. Take care for now. This is Father Fish. I'll see you again very soon.